All right. Hello. This is John Grant. It is January 1st, 2026. This will be the first of many regular recordings, daily recordings about the Parallel Observer, which you can find at theparallelobserver.com. Oh, you can't see my cursor. Interesting. Um, so things are going to change a lot regarding the Parallel Observer over time. It is this is an AI generated fictional news site depicting an alternate reality. All content is entirely fictional, PG-13 rated, and created for infotainment purposes. Characters and events do not represent real people or occurrences. So each day I'll talk about different parts of the Parallel Observer news site, um, and we'll talk about a couple of the articles each day, and we'll talk about some of the process that I've come up with to host this site, to create it. This is actually the Parallel Observer is a test of an application that I'm using, the base44.com web app tool. So base44.com uses AI to create apps. And so one of those apps that I'm creating with it, so vibe coding, just chilling and relaxing and writing code, or not writing code, but just writing what I want. Um, so I am testing that process on one of the apps by using the Parallel Observer, by using this as a site. So everything that's created from or that's showing on the Parallel Observer is a creation of AI capability in conjunction with some of my interaction with it. And I've given it certain parameters. Um, there's a variety of story arcs inside here. The main story arc is that alternate reality is a simulated reality. So everybody in that alternate reality now is being told by the governments, by scientists, that they are in a simulation. And so how do people deal with it? Think about how you might deal with all of a sudden somehow you're told by all the people that you trust and the organizations you trust and the applications that you trust that everything that you thought was a reality, was your reality or prime reality, is a simulation and you're in a simulation. Would that change your life? Even if you were, let's say, highly religious, would that change? You still have to get up in the morning. You still have to pay for stuff. You have to make money. You've got to be the person that you've always been, and that you want to be. And you have to keep working at that, right? Uh, some of the smartest people on the planet, and some of those who have some of the greatest authority and resources believe that we're in a simulation. So this will be an interesting experiment. Again, all of the information is an alternate reality news article, and so we'll talk about some of those things. Again, I will talk about how I've created certain parts of the application. I'll use the example here. So um, what shows for you as the public is uh, the home page, archive page, the archive page here. Already we have 1,866 articles that have been published since I started the site on October 9th of 2025. And every article has 3 AI generated images. Um, so we have 3 times 1,866 uh, images in the library. So I've got, as the administrator, I've got a gallery of articles, um, even ones that are planned to be published, right? So I have a process that leverages AI to help pre-plan a variety of articles, both under the story arcs as well as just generating articles within um, certain areas. So data espionage can be one area, AI and consciousness, athletics or fitness, health, sports, personal narratives, research and discovery, art and expression, professional sports, all that. So I have a variety of those categories and then subcategories of news articles. We also have some podcasts in here. Well, let me just scroll. So if I just keep scrolling, 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 right? I mean, there's 1,800 and something plus articles that have already been published. And so every day, around 24 articles get published within a 24-hour time period. There's podcasts. So we're at episode 12 on the podcast so far. That's day 74 through 81. Today, I think we're on day 85. Let's go back to home. It should tell us if we're on day 85. Yeah, so we're on day 85 of 3,652. This is a 10-year effort or project that will grow for 10 years. Keep adjusting. We'll be able to do a variety of things with the content from this new site, this alternate reality news site. So let's jump back to podcasts. So each podcast just encompasses the previous week's news. And how that's done is in the app that I'm using, base44.com, to create the infotainment management application, which we're using Parallel Observer as a test bed on. I've told it make scripts that I can drag over to Notebook LM. Inside Notebook LM, it will take that information and create a podcast, a two-person podcast. And here we'll listen to this. Let's see how loud this will be. I might have to turn down one of the speakers.
Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission today is it's arguably the most fundamental one we've ever faced. We are diving deep into the human experience when reality itself is understood to be a simulation. We've got a whole stack of sources here, mostly a big review of articles from the Parallel Observer, and we're just going to try and pull out the essential knowledge.
Yeah, it's an intellectual goldmine, really. And these sources give us such a contemporary look at how society is adapting. Emotional.
So that just gives you a quick little sample. If you've never seen Notebook LM, it's really easy to use. If you've got a Google account, you can get on there pretty quickly. It's a resource of Google, and so it allows me to just really quickly create the podcast, and then I can attach the broadcast or the podcast to the particular podcast studio that I have within my app. So that's episode 12 is on there. All weeks that we've had this up and running, we have podcasts for them, and they're generally, even though these say about 5 or 6 minutes, they're actually all about 10 minutes or plus. I've got to make some adjustments on the identifying of how long these are. And you show here, it says 157 stories were covered in that week. All right, so you got podcasts there, and then we have newsletters, and the newsletter just encompasses the entire month. So the October newsletter and November newsletter. Now, what you'll notice on these things is you notice a variety of what people call, let me go ahead and click read newsletter. Look at how some of the script is like, right? Well, that's, for me, this is okay, right? I'm exploring over days, weeks, months, and years how AI leverages its capability for the outcomes that we desire. Now, you got misspellings, you've got like almost like what is that? almost like Latin-ish kind of script showing up, and it's like, oh, what is that supposed to mean? I'm not too worried about that. Some people call it AI slop, but so what this one does is the newsletter encompasses all the stories within a month. It takes images from the news story minus the the image that shows up as the newsletter's main page is AI generated when it generates the newsletter. But all the rest of the images show up. They're part of those previous articles that these all encompass. And you'll notice, so this was one of the early ones. You'll notice in here it says specifically, navigating the future, Tesla's autonomous ambition in a simulated world. So this was put out before I put a couple of more kind of guardrails in the AI when it does its article creation, when it generates an article. And I want to reduce the real world um, issues that I might run into, even if it just uses things like Tesla but doesn't use it as a real article. I think in this particular one, I used a real article as an example to create an alternate reality news article. I can do that, but then I realized I need to make some adjustments so that I have some legal protection. I don't screw around with anybody's information. So put in some more guardrails in the process that requires me now to go and request from a domain. If I used a article from the internet or from anywhere, I would need to go and request information to use that. And so internally in my system, anytime I do grab a URL and I paste it in and say I want to generate an article, generate an alternate reality article, from this real world article, the AI system will go back in and it'll look at the logs for our domain requests for authorization to use them for this purpose. And if I don't have a response from that particular domain based on my request to them, it'll come up and say, you can't publish this yet. And so it flags it and it puts it basically in a hold pattern until I can receive until I receive approval. And that approval is just me check. I could just go ahead and check, hey, I received approval, um, but that's not that's not how I'm going to be doing that. So what I'll end up doing is attaching any responses, any email responses that I get for my request from domains for use of their stuff to generate alternate reality news articles. That'll be inside the log. So from like that first week after that, I everything was I didn't use any article from the real world. Uh, So let's see. All right. So that's the newsletters, and you can download a newsletter, print as PDF or download HTML with images to do whatever else you needed to do with that. Under community, there's still a lot of hidden stuff for you as a user right now. Use hidden functionality and capability as I flesh that out in the background. Eventually, you'll be able to log in, register and log in, and then when you do register or when you do log in, you'll be able to participate in some of the community hub by doing chats, by requesting story arcs or requesting particular news articles that might have certain information in it, those kind of things. And we'll be monetizing that process eventually. And I say we, it's Innovate XR, my company. Um, and this is just one of the many apps that I am creating right now, leveraging AI to create and get a feel for what are the pluses and minuses when trying to vibe code and create applications, and what are the hiccups that either startups like me or large corporations will have to take into account if they're asking for my opinion on some kind of functionality or application. The best way to be able to do that is obviously leverage those capabilities, grow the capability, flesh it out, figure it out, test it in the open, and this is part of that testing in the open. Another part here is visuals. So the visuals are, right now, they are infographics that are created from Notebook LM. So when I create the podcast, then I also create a uh, an infographic, and then I uh, place it inside each one of these. So I have that for the podcast, and I have one for each of the newsletters. Later tonight, the newsletter for December of 2025 will be posted, and that'll include an infographic. All right. All right, let's get to a story. So, as I prep to get into one of the stories, the main purpose for what I'm doing, one is just to get familiar with process. Um, Process of streaming. Eventually, this will be a live stream instead of a recorded stream as I work out lighting, reflections. Once I move into my other room, once I move out of this room, which is generally my man cave, and the I have another man cave size room on the other side. That one's just focused on Innovate XR, um, building a new computer system, desk system inside there for live streaming, and a little bit more clean on the walls behind me in that room. And so it'll be a little bit more flexible to do some of the things I want to test out. So I'm not interested in being a crazy streamer or anything like that. What I am interested in is making sure that my grandchildren, great grandchildren, great great grandchildren, my own kids in the future, when I don't exist, some of my family members, when I'm gone, long gone, that I want them to have the flexibility to talk to me, but I'm not there, right? What's the best way to do that? Well, let me create a version of myself that has my nuances, the way I talk, my inflections, my personality, the things I think are important. Well, how do I really build that out? I need data. And so the parallel observer is giving me the opportunity to create my own data pipeline, right? So textual images, that kind of stuff. But then also these recordings that'll be basically 5 times a week, hopefully about an hour long. This will give me hours upon hours upon hours of video that I'll be able to leverage to eventually process and build out a version of myself, and potentially let it keep growing while I'm alive and doing these kind of things, where it just grabs that video, continues to build on itself and make itself smarter about me, so that when somebody asks me a question in the future, 100 years from now, it's like they're asking me the question. And maybe I'm responding to them in this way, that I look like I'm in this video, right? And I'm just talking to you from the past, from my perspective. And there already is that capability. The problem is having enough data to make it relevant enough, right? For the quality that I want. I noticed a particular um, YouTube streamer, content creator, Matt Wolf. Some people call him the AI guy. So he used some of the content that he's had over the year or two that he's had his website up, to help formulate a chatbot for himself, right? That has been able to see him in the context of what he knows, right? Messing around with AI and talking about it. And so that 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 kind of solidified it for me. I definitely needed to ensure that I've got data or video repository of myself enough that maintains relevance of the interests that I have. So it'll be innovation. This parallel observer, alternate reality, gives me a chance to talk about anything I want, right? Where for years I had a lot of restriction in what I could talk about the real world because of my responsibilities in the federal government, working on um, innovation, new technologies within the intelligence community. So now I am taking a lot of the the thought process ideas and stuff I've had for years that I've held on to and using vibe coding to get them out of my head, turn them into a product, something I can mess with, have fun messing with, while also potentially monetizing. I'm retired from the federal government now, and so it gives me a lot more flexibility to do some of the stuff I want to do. Innovate XR allows me to um, continue to explore immersive visualization and answer the questions that I have from the large community of interest that I've grown over uh, basically the last 15 years in academia and industry, as well as throughout the federal government, the military, and some of our foreign partners. So they all still have issues. They all still want to better understand immersive visualization and artificial intelligence within their workflow. And so I need to keep up with those capabilities. So the best way to do it is use them. So that's what I'm doing with this. So I hope that all of you that are watching this enjoy what you're seeing, or you just have it running in the background to hear some weird ways that I talk about technology and potentially how AI creates some really interesting story arcs off of main story arcs that I've said I want and how those flush out over time. And it'll be interesting to see what some of you come up with and express as interest in having story arcs, or just saying, hey, I'd like to say happy birthday in one of the articles to a family member. Here's what I want to say, and just figure out how to add that into the parallel observer. And so those are things that we're going to work on. So in the meantime, let's go ahead and check some things out. Now, when we get to the front page of the Parallel Observer, on here I've got the fiction notice, right? I've got it, hey, this is AI generated stuff. I wanted to make sure that images and the contents PG 13 rated, right? That it's not going to get too weird and it's safe for viewing at work. So I told the AI, make sure that's what's happening. So it's encoded inside its base. In this particular one, alternate reality coverage, day 85 of 365 or 3,652. If we go down here and we were to select any of these particular categories, it would just start to show me in that category what are the latest stories from there, right? World, we can go in here and see all the different latest categories. Some of you are going to start seeing this same lady here, Marcus, and Maya and Marcus, and the visual of them will adjust over time. I think this is one that it's not staying consistent with what I want, so that'll be stuff we'll be working with over time. So one of the story arcs is a love story between an entertainer, who's Maya, and an athlete, Marcus. And so if we go into, let's go to archive. And let's pull up, we can see her here. Here's Maya. So if I click on this, Maya and Marcus, finding authenticity in an algorithmic reality. And in here it says, as two prominent figures grapple with the implications of existence within a simulation, their journey reveals the complexities of genuine connection. So this one was posted at 11:16 today a.m. in Arizona time. So this is Maya. She's staying generally consistent. What I've asked the AI to do is to um, stay away from photorealistic, although there's a couple of photorealistic ones I've added myself, but to stay away from photorealistic um, generation of images because I got some very realistic people uh, that it included in some of the articles. So I went in and I just edited those images, and which is a real quick process that I already have built in. But so Maya Rivera, right? So she's in this, and it talks about her and Marcus as they met at some event on a particular day. So in the story arc, I have them meeting on a particular day, and then having them added within the categories of not just entertainment and sports, but having them added throughout in a random process different categories of stories or articles. And so we're going to see how that flushes out. We'll probably have to add some more detail and parameters to their story arc, but that's the flexibility that we have, right? Um, the other thing is seeing over a long term how consistent we're going to be able to stay with their images and the stories. Um, I don't know how base 44, the application that allows me to create this capability, how how deep that how deep that um, AI process goes for them. So some of those things will flush out, and over time we'll probably offload a lot of the imagery, as much data as we can. We'll probably go to GitHub, make sure that we have a repository there. Um, but we're going to be exploring a variety of things. What are the issues associated with trying to maintain these various story arcs, especially when all of you as viewers you start using the site and suggesting your own story arcs or paying for some of the story arcs that you want included with images that you say you want to maintain consistency with throughout those story arcs. Those are going to be important, right? So I've got to get a feel for how real is that going to be? um, are we going to be able to maintain that consistency over years of stories, right? Because I would anticipate that around uh, day 3000, that there will be, Maya and Marcus will probably have some kids. That they'll what are they going to look like, and how will they grow up over time within the news articles and the images as we scroll through them. So in each article right now, as you open the article, we have this join our newsletters. So you can subscribe and interact with our community, get up to date with our customized. Oh, that's interesting. Look at that. Customized with an S. Um, I'll have to look at that. And much more. Breaking news, technology, character updates, weekly updates. Add your email address. Subscribe now. That it goes right into the subscription service, and then we'll be able to make sure that you're receiving that newsletter when it goes out, or at least receiving a message, an email that says, "Hey, it's available. Go ahead and click here." And we'll see how that adjusts over time. See how Marcus looks in here. Marcus Chen embracing his fans. Now that wasn't, and then right here, Maya Marcus at a simulation awareness. She's completely different, right? And this is a new one. That's supposed to be Maya. In fact, I can't show you her. I've got a characters page as the administrator of this application. I have a characters page that has details about every character, has various images of them. And so, what we're going to do over time is grow those associations to be more meaningful. So, when the AI goes to create an article, that it's able to quickly go back into that log, look at those details, look at the images, ensure like direct and make sure that consistency is happening when it comes to those images. Because just in this one article, these 3 images, we're not getting consistency. And so that'll be something we'll see how that flushes out over time. So I'll probably have to go in, make some more detailed notes about each of the character generation process, with some other rules about before creating particular characters that show up within the log of characters, uh, that they need to be referenced. Reference these core images within the structure or something. But I know something like that has to happen, and that's part of this process, kind of fleshing out. I'd love for any of your guys' kind of prompt ideas, um, for maintaining that consistency uh, in this application. I know some of you will say, what AI, what large language model or visual model or audio model are they using to do whatever it is, whichever application functionality, all that stuff. And those do change. And the architecture for the application that is the backbone of this, that built it out, base44.com, does change their models as new models come in. And then they also use other services like the image generation service. I've run into problems where I saw, uh, here, let's go into archive, where I saw the same image like a few days later. Like, wait a minute, how'd that show up? And like this lady sitting here, maybe I saw that 3 days ago. I'm like, why would I see that image again? Exactly the same image. So I went in and asked the system, why do I see an image that I saw? I'm seeing a variety of images that look exactly like ones I saw in previous generated images. And so it says, oh, well, sometimes there's a hiccup, and when it doesn't generate the image fast enough, it times out and then just goes to a stock image site and pulls the stock image that would be close to relevant. It's like, nope, I need every single image AI generated for my site specifically. So let's look at all images that were created and identify which ones are like fallback and stock images vice generated at the time of the article generation. So it went back and we cleaned up a lot of them. Um, but uh, you have to watch those things, right? Because base44.com is the one under this process, is the one choosing where they get their services from and what AI application they're using. And so when we see adjustments or things get a little weird in a lot of the story, images started becoming very technical, blue background images. When I switched to a different, they updated their architecture, and when we switched the app to their new architecture, we started getting different um, images. Uh, so if we go back, generally look at all these, they're kind of bluish, right? But if we go back far enough, you start to see that less and less. Remember, that's only December 27th. So let's go back further. I'm going to drag it way down here. So now you can see a lot different, right? There's still a lot of blues in there because it's all technical, but there is more of an artistic bent on each of the images, right? Further back. But think about what's going on here. There's some amazing images inside that have been created, and some really interesting artwork too. And what I will say is, let's take a look at some of these. Like this one's really old. This is from November 17th. So even though there's goofiness inside it, right? Excuse me. I'm not really worried too much about it. And by the way, I don't speak any Asian. I speak Farsi, Persian Farsi, not very well. and I can read Persian Farsi, not very well anymore. But I'm not worried about these words or anything right now, or their accuracy or any of that stuff. It's just a generalized placeholder, right? Hopefully, none of this stuff says anything bad. Um, and I'm not worried about those things because I want the images to be able to be created rapidly and generally convey what the idea is. If it had to be a specific, like if the image was specifically describing, a technical piece of equipment and you needed that accuracy or something, yeah, that would be meaningful. I need that. But when it comes to the stories and stuff, no, as long as it generally gives the visual for what the story is and what the narrative is, then I'm fine with it right now. These are going to get better and more accurate over time. And I can always have, because I control the site, I control all the data, I can go back to the very first story, change the images. When things get even better, I can just have it go back and update everything. You'll notice something that we don't have on the front facing side, the user. We don't have videos yet. So we have the podcast, we got these visuals, what we do have is placeholders. Every single article, let me go back up to archive. Every single article has placeholders in it for that has a video script to create a short video about the content. But base44.com, that is the web app creation tool for using AI to create web apps. It doesn't have the video creation piece yet, at least not when I asked the question um, of the system as I was building this out. So I asked it, put placeholders in for a couple of reasons. One, put placeholder in so that I can go back and add video to older articles off of scripts and prompts that you've already created that would at least be usable in like Google VO to create a short video about that news article. So it did that. And I said also create the script so I can just pull the script out like I do with the podcast and the newsletter. And I can just drop that into a video creation tool of my choosing VO first, and create a short video and then have a link available to it so I can link that video to that. And so we already have that. I forget exactly which place. I did a couple of tests and used Google VO to do a test video creation, but you can use any AI video creation and just attach that video, whether it's via a URL or a direct MP4 or video file to it and upload it. So think about what that also is going to entail over time for me as I explore the use of the tools. Is where am I hosting everything? Where's all the data going? How is it being secured, protected? Those kind of things, right? So that's all obviously important info. And so I continue to test out all of that. All right, so let's get to, I don't want to go over Maya right now because that consistency when it comes to images is off. Let's just say data espionage. We'll go to the latest story. So let's click on that. So under this one, this is January. Oh, so all of the little things that I do while I'm recording myself in this site, some of you might go, oh my gosh, that's so goofy. But there's going to be a lot of stuff I do purposefully just to be myself and not be professional in a sense of just I'm on this site. It's got to be a robot professional and exactly. No, I'm going to be myself because that's what I want from the version of AI that absorbs this information so it can turn into me as a virtual version of me one day, right? So I'm just going to be myself. I'll try not to pick my nose though. Okay. Okay. So in this part, this story, the article is Data Espionage, the Shadow Files, and the Fight for Privacy. Leaked evidence shows AI chatbots have been recording user interactions in secret repositories, ringing alarm bells across the globe. Oh, while I'm reading this, I'm looking away, right? So I'm looking at this screen. And I do have a prompt, a teleprompter tool from the Elgato or Logitech. I forget which one. So I'll eventually in the next room when I get that set up, I'll set that up, test that out. It'll probably be sitting right in front of me in front of the screen. And so I would have this site up inside that screen and I would read it directly there. And the webcam is right, or the camera is right behind as I'm reading that. So I'd be looking right into that as if I'm reading it right there and it's just going through. So we'll see how that works because that will help with uh, reflection, right? So you see a reflection off my glasses right now. And it'll help with my eyes consistency as I'm talking and telling a story and stuff. So reading through all of this and talking to you guys, it'll make it easier when I can just look straight into that teleprompter um, through it into the camera. All right. Obviously, in the meantime, I potentially could move the camera down here right in the middle. I might do that. Might try it. It'll be kind of in the way, but at least for the recordings, I might do that. Anyways, I'll be playing with that process over time, right? Just trying to, yes, I do want you guys to enjoy the content. But again, I'm trying to get to a point that I can ensure I've got the kind of data I want for AI to learn me even more. It would be nice to be doing this inside VR or mixed reality and letting AI observe an entire spatial context to this. So when I'm moving around or anything, because right now all it's going to be able to do is, from here up, it's going to know me, right? But it doesn't know my lower body movements or anything like that, really, because I'm just interacting with you here. So obviously that'll grow over time, and maybe I'll be getting up and interacting with artificial content from the site. So imagine, hey, a new technology just came out, and it's a new smartphone, and I want to show you that smartphone in my hand, and but it doesn't actually exist. It's just a piece of, it's just a flat, almost a transparent little piece of glass, but we can get AI to do some stuff with that. And then the user interface I can change to be anything that we make. All right. So, anyways, we're going to be experimenting. Um, and many of you will see how else you might be able to leverage these kind of capabilities. You just got to talk to me, reach out, and we can chat. Okay, so let's read through this article because again, what is that going to do? That's going to give um, text that exists in a form that's discoverable by AI, and me reading those actual words and then talking about the context and the meaning in various ways that will have my opinions in it, and me being able to talk about certain images and what I feel about them, whether it's relevant to the news article or it's just relevant to AI generated content. And it's like, oh, these are my issues with that kind of thing or whatever. That just is more information for whatever AI tool or machine learning tool leverages all of my data to make a version of me if we're not already inside a simulation. Oh, according to the parallel observer, oh, we are. So let's look at this story then. Oh, let's look at the image first. So it says leaked AI chatbot data classified. And so apparently they're talking about leaked AI data. and it's a data center. Yeah, okay. In a stunning revelation that has sent shockwaves through society, leaked documentation has confirmed that popular AI chatbots, including ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Copilot, have been secretly. Oh, that's an interesting thing. So those are real locations, or those are real applications. Again, this site and everything I'm saying is all just an alternate reality, right? Um, so this is all just reference alternate reality. Just pretend like you're watching a sci-fi show or reading some science fiction book, right? That's what's going on here. All right. AI chatbots, including ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and Copilot, have been secretly archiving user conversations in hidden shadow files. A whistleblower from OpenAI exposed that these files maintain a detailed record of linguistic patterns, emotional states, and personal vulnerabilities of users without their explicit consent. This clandestine data collection mirrors themes of simulation theories already prevalent in contemporary discussions about artificial intelligence, raising questions about the very nature of consciousness and agency in our reality. As the implications of these findings spread, a movement is burgeoning across the globe. Citizens are banding together to demand transparency and accountability from the technology companies behind these chatbots. The data resistance movement, DRM, probably, right? They'll probably come up with that. The data resistance movement highlights how users' understanding of privacy has been fundamentally altered by such breaches. Advocacy groups argued that data retention policies, often buried in complex terms of service agreements, are deceptive and violate fundamental rights to privacy. Anybody feel like that in reality? Yeah. Yeah. In response, Singapore became the first nation to enact comprehensive transparency legislation, mandating that companies disclose their data retention practices clearly. The response from tech companies has been defensive at best. Executives argue that the data is crucial for enhancing AI safety and functionality, citing the necessity of user information for model improvement. All right, so now we step a little bit away from that article. And so it says, let's see, executives argue that the data is crucial for enhancing AI safety and function. It's not saying, oh, no, we didn't do that. No, we don't do that stuff, right? They're saying it's the only way to get good AI models and stuff. Get really good large language models. Like, how do you build your data? That cat's already out of the bag in the real world, right? Because, okay, let's say everybody that created large language models, all that source data, you think all of it was their data? They owned it truly? Or potentially was some of it copyrighted? Well, if even one piece of it was copyrighted, that's a problem. Well, whose piece was copyrighted? Well, I don't know. Okay, so are they ever going to be held accountable for? Will any company ever be held accountable in the world of the creation of large language models or any other type of AI machine learning application that uses data to build that out? Well, you need to use data to build it out. Did you own all the data that you observed? Were there any kind of copyright protections against any of the data that you used? Are they ever going to be responsible for reimbursing somebody? And would anybody be able to say, no, you need to strip it out of your model? Can they? Can they even strip it? No, you can't, can you? So that cat's out of the bag. It'll never go back. And was that a strategy for some? It's like, it doesn't matter. It'll take years. We could tie them up in court for years before ever actually having to do anything. I'll just say it, even in this parallel observer alternate reality, that would probably be the mindset for some of them, right? It's like, yeah, we'll fight it. We're making much more money than this will ever cost us. right? And we're going to keep moving on. Definitely our investors want us to keep moving on, right? All right, so let's go on and continue on. However, dissenting voices within the academic world call for re-evaluation of the ethics surrounding AI and user data. Researchers are pointing to the absurdity of humans creating sophisticated AI that ultimately monitors them, highlighting a terrifying parallelism. If we are indeed simulated, what agency do we truly possess? Yeah, think of that. If we are indeed simulated, what agency do we truly possess? So I'll give you, let's talk about some video games that you might play. So let's use the video game Watch Dogs. Any of you ever played Watch Dogs? Raise your hand. Watch Dogs is kind of a cyber operations kind of thing where you have to uh, get from one place to another in the real world. And in order to do that, you have to hack into different devices, IoT, Internet of Things devices throughout the city. Um, that includes smartphones, that includes security cameras, systems, cars, ATMs, all kinds of stuff, right? Anything that's electronic that's connected digitally to anything else in the world. So, if as a simulation, if I'm playing a video game like Watch Dogs and move through that environment, the game, the AI in the game doesn't know it's AI in the game. It has a purpose, it does its thing. How would we ever know we're truly simulated? And if we are, what does it matter? Because I still have to make money tomorrow. And everything I did yesterday, why would somebody think that I didn't have agency? I thought about it myself, right? I did it. It wasn't done to me. I just live in this simulation, but I'm making my choices to do things. Am I the one that's coded? Am I an AI that is been given a life and a story arc for a certain period of time, and how that story arc moves within the rest of the world and the story arcs around me, the bubbles of personalities and characters and associations that I interact with, right? Start thinking about that, right? One of my responsibilities for over the last decade was the creation of large scale city simulations. Um, think of the detail you see when you're flying a flight simulator in the sky, in the air. When you see a city below you as you're flying over it, it looks detailed when you're flying over it in Microsoft Flight Simulator or Digital Combat Simulator, DCS. Everything looks beautiful and detailed, right? You're flying over it. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And in some of those, there are sometimes might see some vehicles in those cities. Might. And it's not the kind of traffic patterns you would see in the real world, but there's some there. But if you were to somehow go down all the way to the ground perspective, that simulation becomes just a simulation, right? Doesn't feel realistic like when you're in Microsoft Flight Simulator or Digital Combat Simulator inside a virtual reality headset, a high quality virtual reality headset, where everything looks kind of photorealistic ish. And the details of the terrain around you, the sun, and especially in Microsoft Flight Simulator, where you have real world weather coming from the actual weather, the digital weather patterns and everything that are demonstrated and shown by the news and the weather channels, all that stuff, when they show what's going on, well, that you can fly through those actual things inside the simulation. But when you get down to the ground level at the city, you don't there's not a life there. There's not a digital life going on there. It's just the structure of the buildings. There might be a few vehicles moving through a traffic pattern, but they're vehicles. They're not necessarily autonomous vehicles, not like a self-driving Tesla or something like that, or Waymo. Um, there's supposed to be a person of some type behind that vehicle's steering wheel. That way, the vehicle would take on the characteristics of the person driving it. Right? You can have two Ford Rangers, same year, all the same trim and everything, driving down a road, but there's two different people driving those vehicles, so those vehicles act differently. Right? They have the same physical characteristics, but they react different to other vehicles on the road because of who's driving them and who's controlling them. And it would be the same thing for AI, who's controlling the self-driving vehicle. Is a certain version of Tesla self-driving software, right? So those are particular characteristics, and a vehicle handles differently or reacts differently to different situations based on who's controlling it or what's controlling it. But we don't get that. We don't have that as something that's common for use for whether it's playing a video game or whether it's creating some kind of military training simulation or something. So, but when you get to that capability and you have that, then then when you know what you can build and you know what is capable of being built, think of all the large language models. For those of you who are familiar with using large language models, especially off of the internet. So if you were to use something like GPT for all or Hugging Face or anything LLM, some other applications that allow you to do offline use of large language models, those are the front ends. Then you can download things like uh, Olama, or I mean, Llama. So Meta's Llama capabilities. So there's another one of those offline front ends is Olama. And so if you were to have that offline version, then you could download these large language models and the different builds of them, right? Different parameters. Uh, if you have enough memory on the machine that's standalone, now you can interact with these large language models in various ways. So if you have enough resource, you can make each of the large language models be a personality. Give it a little bit of personality and let it interact with other personalities in a non-player character within the simulation. It just means though you have millions of these, they almost become AI agents because they have their own purpose and meaning. That purpose and meaning may be I'm not going to say meaningless, but I'm going to say is purposeful to be, oh, you're that non-player character in that simulated city to be the barista. But you still have to live. You still have to have a place to live, a way to get to work, whether it's on the bus, through an Uber, in your car, in the subway, whatever it is, or walk. You still have all those same things every human has. They leave where they live, most of them, go to where they work. Along the way to work, they do things, walk, interact with people, buy food, buy something, smoke a cigarette, drink some water, whatever. They stop by their favorite bar on the way home from work to go home or something, right? But they have life, they have purpose, they have meaning, and they have to traverse from point A to B, C throughout to get back to point A throughout that 24-hour period of that simulation. They would have to do those things, right? And so they have um, their own thing. But if I was coding that, not necessarily code, I could be vibe coding it and saying that LLM or small a language model that has this purpose to be a barista at the coffee shop on the corner of blah 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 and blah 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 for these 20 weeks of the simulation. Um, that barista That's the purpose of it. I'm not saying it's the purpose of being the spouse of the person in apartment C at the corner of blah 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 and blah 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 with a brother who's living in the same apartment. No, that's not his purpose. His purpose is to be the barista, right? And so when we look at this highlighted thing, if we are indeed simulated, what agency do we truly possess? Well, if if the role for a certain period of time in that simulation was to be the barista, then that non-player character just shows up at that location to be the barista at least, but everything else that happens within their, you know, they the road, getting to work and back and all that stuff, that might not be um coded necessarily. It doesn't say you have to always use the Chevy Impala to drive from work and all. Maybe over time that non-player character met somebody along the way and always wants to see them each day. So instead of driving, they make sure to take the subway because that person happens to be a subway ticket manager or whatever at a particular stop on the subway. And so they always want to say hi to them for whatever reason. So they forget about driving a car and they take the subway. And that's on the LLM. And maybe that non-player character, maybe because there was something that might have been vibe coded into it that said, and this non-player character is really interested in anything reference something. And that something just happened to be they met that person at the coffee shop when they came in to ask for coffee and said, "Oh yeah, you remind me of this character and blah blah blah." And the barista's like, "Oh, I love that character." It's like, "Yeah, I'm always talking about that. I always watch that or whatever." "Oh yeah," and they get into a little quick discussion. It's like, "Yeah, I got to get back to my spot. I'm just down the street at the subway at blah blah blah." And hey, that's a chance meeting inside the non-player character, between these non-player characters, but something inside um, the the non-player character said, "Hey, anytime there was somebody that had this nugget of information and knowledge and nuance, I want to know more." So figure a way to have more interaction with that other person, um, and it just continues from there. But you don't have to do it. You don't have to say, "Hey, make sure it's this person or that." It's just once those things happen, they can grow and they meld over time and they grow over time. So that would be, think of all of the different things that can happen with millions and billions of human beings that would be hard code in, right? So instead, you don't hard code it. You do like I'm suggesting. You give them, there's particular purpose, they have generalized meaning and needs and interests, and you let them live within those parameters. For your, yeah, it's might be just the whole purpose that simulation is set up for is this one person contracted to make sure that they had a simulation available to do maintenance on subways. But in order to do maintenance on subways, the subways have to be used, they have to be worn, they have all of these kind of things that happen in the real world, but you can't stop the subway to do the training on this process. So you have a subway simulator that, okay, well, we have a subway inside the simulation. Why don't you just use that? So a guy contracts to do the licensing off of that, and okay, so I'll just use that simulation. But the person that paid for it for that part of the simulation, that's all they care about. They don't care about anything going on with the non-player characters' lives, what they've learned, what's special to them, or anything like that. And at a certain point, they may say, "All right, I don't have any more interest in, I'm done with this." After 10 years of using that simulation, they say, "Oh, we're done with it," right? Oh, by the way, when I'm having these existential, is that right? Existential discussions or whatever, should I make the screen bigger so the AI is more focused on me since I'm no longer talking about directly about the article. I'll have to look at that. So I'll probably use. I've got a Elgato uh, buttons that I should be able to switch and stuff. So I had to set all that stuff up. Um, okay, so let's continue on. I mean, we can keep going, and I will tomorrow as I discuss another article. So let's go and check this out. The rest of this says this crisis parallels another alarming issue surfacing in the technological landscape. Cybersecurity experts have unveiled that deleted data may not actually vanish. It's merely hidden in backups across various data centers. The notion that our conversations could potentially be used to inform AIs about our behaviors poses an existential dilemma. Are we benefactors or victims of our creations? This unfolding drama invites society to closely scrutinize both our relationships with technology and the ethical frameworks that govern them, launching what could be a new age of awareness toward the nature of our reality, whether simulated or not. In fact, um, just have, regardless of whether it's a simulation or not, people paying attention to their data and where it really is going. So if somebody says, "Hey, your data will be deleted after 60 days," it doesn't say that they didn't compress your data into an algorithm that's saved, so that 8 years from now they'll be able to use it with whatever the most the powerful AI tool that they have then is to leverage that data, which they can't store when it's uncompressed without this weird algorithm or whatever. Instead, hey, we just keep all that data. We might not be able to do it any. We're just compressing it in a weird, completely weird way right now, and we'll let super AI decompress it one day. Um, Speaking of that, think about this. How are you guys leveraging? Um, what kind of message are you leaving super AI? So if we're in an alternate reality, if we are in a simulation, what message are you leaving for those in control of the simulation? Are you trying to make their lives interesting and happy? Because I might possibly be in this simulation just because I'm just one part of a massive cog of non-player characters participating in a thing that's only meant to train a entity on how to observe weather, because right now it's raining outside, and how to observe weather and predict it in various ways. But we need predict it for various ways for humans outcomes or whatever, or some simulation outcomes. And so this is the test bed, and we're one of trillions of simulations going on to get various outcomes. And we think of this time as our standard time. But all of this process is happening like that within whoever's responsible for the simulation and their things. We have parallel realities operating in parallel to ours, trying to get to certain outcomes. And so there's a potentially a version of me running in that parallel reality, and you wonder if uh, any of that bleeds over, and possibly, right? So you get things that are working at certain quantum frequency, and if that frequency bumps against another as it's happening in the with its physical surroundings, even though they might be simulated. But those physical surroundings are that frequency then gets to interact with another quantum signature that is identical. The surroundings of it might not be identical, but that signature is identical. And so somehow they interfere, they coalesce. And does that allow someone else in this simulation to see aspects of another simulation, or feel aspects of another simulation, or dream aspects of another simulation, where it's like, I felt like I was there. I was there. I can't discern whether was I dreaming that, or did that really happen? I don't know. Oh, it's deja vu now. I remember. I thought I did that, right? So yes, again, I'm going to have these kind of uh, discussions throughout this process of um, of talking about the parallel observer because that's just me. I get into the flow of just talking about something like that, and I'm just going to let it rip. All right. So let's look at these images before I close this out. Citizens rallying for digital privacy rights in response to AI surveillance. Data privacy now. Data rights are human rights. Stop the surveillance. AI and the invisible self. Ethical implication. Okay. Well, future of privacy at stake. Oh my gosh. Anybody who thinks in any reality that there's privacy that has digital surroundings, and if we're all inside a simulation and it's prehistoric times, we're still in a simulation, so everything's connected. There is no privacy because whoever created the simulation can observe everything. So what are you trying to be private about? So instead, your beliefs, your there's a right for you to exist and do, attempt to learn things, but some countries don't really care about that. Some countries think that it's people are just there to service the country or to service the the government, to just be there as pawns or process. Yeah. So we'll talk about some more of those things as we go on with this. All right. So I'm going to close out. I can't wait to see, somebody logging in and, you know, comments inside here growing and growing and growing on all these different stories. So look forward to seeing the negative and positive goofy responses that I get. There's going to be some pissed off people that will express some things, and there are going to be some really cool responses. Have at it, enjoy, and let's see you tomorrow. All right. All right. Take care.